Come? Ah.
Si pensa Velta, sì.
Va bene. Okay, so welcome everybody once again to our Research Doesn't Stop webinar series organized by the GSSI Social Science area. So given the success of the previous wave, we are now at the second edition of the webinar series. And my name is Alessandro Palma. I'm an assistant professor at the GSSI and I will chair today's session. Just to remember, the GSSI webinar series aims at stimulating new research ideas, debate in the core areas, research areas of the GSSI social science area. These include, among others, peripheral development, regional resilience, migration, tourism, cultural heritage, and so on. And today I'm very glad to introduce to you today's speakers, Guido de Blasio. Thank you, Guido, for accepting our invitation. And Guido is a lead economist at the Bank of Italy. His research interests span over different topics, from migration to political economy, regional human capital development. And Guido has extensively published on several important academic journals, such as Journal of Urban Economics, Journal of Public Economics, Journal of Regional Science, and many others. So it's a pleasure that you have been here, Guido. So let me summarize the rule of game for today's webinar. So Guido, you will have about 1 hour to present the paper. If there are spotlight questions from the audience, please write on the chat. And after Guido presentations, a discussion of about 40 minutes, the maximum time is 1 hour, will follow. And also I have to inform you that this webinar is going to be recorded. So I kindly invite you, all of you who prefer, to follow our webinar on our official YouTube channel. And so I do hope we will have a fruitful discussion because Guido is going to present for the first time this paper today. So Guido, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Alessandro. It's a real pleasure for me to be here with you guys. This, as Alessandro was mentioning, this is a new paper. It's still a work in progress, so it's a paper that hopefully will be finished by the end of this year. And it's a joint work with the Guglielmo Barone from the University of Padova and Elena Gentili, and she's a colleague of mine. The title is Politically Connected City, and you will understand in a while we entitled the paper in this way. So let me start from something that probably is already pretty known among you, and this is a tale from Italy's first republic. You know that in Italy we have this very important highway. It's the highway connected Milano to Rome that was built basically between 1956 and 1964, and it's called the Autostrada. It's called the Autostrada del Sole. Originally, the idea was that the route should have passed through Siena. Okay, probably you can see on the map. Okay, the original path was the blue one. Okay, so from Florence to Rome. The idea was to pass through Siena, but then the story goes like that. Then at that time Prime Minister Amintore Fanfani decided to let the highway pass through Arezzo rather than Siena, and the legend says that Fanfani in person drew this deviation with a red pencil on the map. So if you now drive from Milano to Rome, at certain point you will drive through this deviation that is called Fanfani curve. According to the chronicles of that time, the Fanfani curve, with the deviation, with the Fanfani curve, the then prime minister was able to get 2 birds with 1 stone, was able to reward his electoral feud of Arezzo, and also was able to, giving a blow to Siena that at that time was led by the main opposition party, that is that was the communist one. So basically, in this paper, we try to tackle a number of research questions. The first one is whether places like Arezzo benefited from being the birthplaces of powerful politicians. Okay, and we try to estimate a connection premium at the city level. Okay, we try to estimate those benefits, and we will also discuss a little bit and try to understand whether these benefits were long-lasting. Okay, and in particular, what happened when the connection terminates. We also wanted to see what are the specific effects of the connection on the local economy. And also that's the end of my story. We will also try to look at the locative, efficiency or inefficiencies. Okay, so the question here is, for a country as a whole, was it a good move? Okay, what is a good idea to move, economic activity close to Arezzo and far away from Siena. In this presentation, I will touch a little bit on the literature and on what might be our contribution to this literature. I will present a lot of empirical evidence of, anecdotal evidence on Italy's First Republic, because it's important to understand the political system in place for almost 40 years at that time. And I will also review some anecdotal evidence on infrastructure and state-owned enterprise that in our identification strategy are going to be the main drivers of the benefits of connections. And then I will move to the empirical strategy and try to explain how do we try to define treated and controls. So what are our treated municipalities, what are the connected municipalities, and how we manage to find an appropriate counterfactuals. Then I will show some empirical evidence with reference to the main connection premium that we are able to measure in this paper. That will be a population connection premium. I will cover some then structural change and some of the mechanisms behind this premium. At the end of the presentation, I will say something on the general equilibrium impacts. Okay. As Alessandro already said, this is the first time I present this paper, so please interrupt me with the comments, questions. I'm happy to listen your doubts, and happy to discuss with you all the points that are not very clear. There is quite a huge literature on documenting pork baller. Okay, so this literature, basically the consensus that it's politicians do favor some targeted places, okay, by means of public expenditures, transfers, and also through asymmetric public good provision, for instance, infrastructure, and also through the location of state-owned enterprises. Okay, and here there are a bunch of paper, Kahn, Carrozzi and Repetto, Duet all, Fiva and Hassel, Gehring and Schleiner, and Gonschorek. Okay, but much less is known, however, about the consequences of regional favoritism in terms of the economic growth. Okay, the impact of favoritism of connection on growth is basically the point of this on our paper. However, here we have two exceptions. The first one is a paper by Hodler and Rasky, 2014, where they basically look at a large sample of both developed and developing countries, and then there is a more recent paper by Hasher Novosad. They look at the districts within India. So both these papers show that the politician bias towards the hometowns translates into higher economic development for the beneficiary. So we basically are very much related to those two papers, and we have something new. And our contribution will be the fact that we focus on Italy, that is a single country, that is different in many respects from India. And we will look at the very long-term dynamics. Okay, we will look at what happens over 40 years, actually over 60 years, and we will try to look also at the allocative bias. Okay, let's talk a little bit of the empirical setup. So something that probably it's already well known for Italians, but still, Italy during the First Republic (FR) was basically a gridlocked, a blocked system. Okay, the political system from the end of the World War II at the fall of Berlin Law, okay, was quite stable and blocked for our purposes. Okay, the fact that the system was blocked, it means that most of the influential politicians, they remain in charge for a very long time. And this is something that will be a key ingredient for our empirical investigation. The political stability was favored by the Cold War on one hand, and on the other hand, it was favored by the strength of the Italian Communist Party. Supported by the US government, there was this tacit agreement to prevent the Italian Communist Party from running the national government, that is called, at that time was called Conventio ad Excludendum, and well, I don't know if there is an English word for that. The idea was that there was a main party, that was the Christian Democratic Party, Democrazia Cristiana, that was in power for all the period, and then this party had some minor parties that were allied with the Democristian Party. Was the Partito Socialista, the Partito Social Democratico, the PRI, Partito Repubblicano, and the Partito Liberale. In some periods, all these five parties, they governed together. This was called the Pentapartito. Before the Pentapartito, the DC was always there, and there were some different alliance over the period. But still, the main idea is that you have five parties with more or less responsibility to govern the country over 40 period. The First Republic ended in 1992, ended in 1992 because at that time the communist threat was over, and also because we had manipulated, okay, this massive judicial investigation into political corruption that caused both the end of the Prima Repubblica and the disappearance of the five parties. It's important to understand that during those 40 years, a bunch of very influential politicians, they were always around. Okay, and here I have the case of Giulio Andreotti. Probably is the most striking case, because Giulio Andreotti was, he was already a member of the 1946 Constituent Assembly, okay? And then without any interruption, he was an elected member of the Italian Parliament up to 1991. After that, he was even appointed as senator for life, senatore a vita, by the President of the Republic. During his career, Andreotti was for 7 times Prime Minister, for 8 times Minister of Defense, for 5 times Minister of the External Affairs, for 3 times Minister of the State-owned Enterprise, and still for 2 times Minister of Finance, Minister of Economic Planning, Minister of Industry, for just 1 time Treasury, Interior, Culture, and European Affairs. You can say the guy was always around, and this was not just the case of Andreotti, but also a case for a number of very influential politicians of the time. One thing that you might need to know is that the Fanfani curve was not a standalone, example. And for instance, we have a number of infrastructures, okay, that were located because some pressure or some lobbying from Italian politicians. This is a few of them are reported here. You will have many of them in the paper. But for instance, the highway going from Rovigo to Trento, crossing Vicenza, is locally named the P-Ruby, after the three Democristiani ministers that lobbied for it, that were Flaminio Piccoli, Mariano Rumor, and Antonio Bisaglia. And clearly they were respectively from Trento, Vicenza, Rovigo. just one, I'm very sorry. I have to answer to a. Okay, sorry. And also another example is the highway, Salerno-Reggio Calabria. When the highway was planned, there were 3 competing routes, and the chosen one, the one that passed through Cosenza, it was chosen because Cosenza was the birthplace of 2 very influential politicians, Giacomo Mancini of the Partito Socialista, Riccardo Misasi from the Christian Democratic Party. And clearly the 2 competing one, even they were, much better from a, a cost-effective perspective, they were discarded. And so, also, and it's something that I have found, just a few minutes before initiating this seminar. Also, the path of the highway connecting Abruzzo to Rome was the reason for a dispute between Remo Gaspari and Lorenzo Natali. I didn't know that. Both of them are from the Christian Democratic Party, and both of them wanted the infrastructure to connect their local constituency that were Chieti and L'Aquila. So since now the highway passed through L'Aquila, probably one of 2, it must be Natali, right? It could be Natali because I don't know, but one of two at the end of the war, and now you have an highway passing through L'Aquila. Another very important feature of the Italian post-World War II development process was this great reliance on industry states. Okay, state-owned enterprises were really quite important, and you had a number of state conglomerates with different mandates for different public aid. For instance, you had the Cassa del Mezzogiorno, the Eni, the IRI, and clearly state-owned enterprises were, potentially having a gold mine for the power politicians that wanted to transfer resources towards their preferred places. So here I have a couple of examples. For instance, there is this Cove, this Componenti Vetrai Italiani, and this Vetrerie del Mediterraneo. There are 2 firms that in the glass sector belonging to a HEFIM that was an industrial conglomerate. They were located in Cosenza again because they were the hometown of the party secretary, the Socialist Party secretary in the 1970 and 1972 period. That again was Giacomo Mancini. Also, you have this one. It's called Little Tractor. That is a tractor that was a firm in the tractor industry, and this firm had plant in Potenza because Potenza was the hometown of Emilio Colombo, that was the prime minister for 1970 to 1972. This is a map just to give you an idea of how important are state-owned enterprises. This is a map from a bunch of historical archives showing the places, the municipalities that hosted a plant or a headquarter of a state-owned enterprises, and in over the national territory. So you can visually get the the impression of how important was state industry at that time for the Italian development process. Okay, and I don't know if you have questions.
No question, Guido. Just I wanted to say that you are reminding us of a very depressing part of our history. I'm sorry. When I saw Giulio Andreotti.
Well, from if you look at the economic history, could be I agree with you. It's a depressing part of our history, but probably it's important to have a look at what happened, because now, for instance, we have many people who are suggesting that we have too little state intervention in the economy. So we should in a way, we should go ahead with this entrepreneurial state and stuff like that. Okay, so probably we are still discussing whether what happened during the First Republic was very bad, as I'm trying to convince you. But probably a bunch of people will say that, you know, that was not that bad. But you will see what we are able to find here. Okay, so how do we define connection? Okay, we basically use the most influential, okay, politicians. We take both the prime ministers and the leaders of the 5 parties in power. Okay, so we got 16 prime minister, 44 party leaders, corresponding to 53 power politicians, and then we drop 2 of them because they were born abroad, and we end up with 51 powerful politicians. Okay, we define as politically connected the municipality of birth of these politicians. Okay, but we also exclude from the sample of treated units the city of Pesaro, because we were not able to find any info as for 1951. That is the beginning of our investigation. And also we exclude the 7 biggest cities, those above 200,000 inhabitants in 1951. And this has been done mostly because we think that for the biggest city we might have many potential confounders going on, and so we are not sure that we are identifying what we want to identify. Think, for instance, at the huge rural to urban migration that took place during that time. Okay. Another important technical detail is that to account for the possibility of geographical spillovers, okay, geographical spillovers of the treatment. In this case, we also assign the treatment to the neighboring municipalities, and we take basically a 10 kilometers radius from the birthplaces. Okay, why 10 kilometers? Because we cannot work with the functional definition of territories like a local labor market, because at that time there was no local labor market map. But still, 10 kilometers is the average radius now for local labor market. So basically the idea is that if we had local labor market also at that time, probably an appropriate radius for those would have been 10 kilometers. All these very arbitrary elements for constructing treatment and control groups, then I will know you will showing a lot of robustness. So those are our powerful politicians, and those are the birthplaces. For instance, the first powerful politician is Renato Altissimo. That's the first row, and he was from the Partito Liberale Italiano. He was a party leader. Okay, so he enters into our definition because he was a party leader. He never been a prime minister, and his year of birth was 1940, and the municipality was Portogruaro in the province of Venezia. So we take, basically in this case, we take the area around 10 kilometers around Portogruaro and say that corresponds to one of our treated areas. And if you read the first column, you can find a number of politicians that I'm sure will ring some bells, at least in those of you who are not very young. For instance, you can find Alcide De Gasperi, Ciriaco De Mita, Mintore Fanfani that I already mentioned. You can find Giovanni Goria, you can find Aldo Moro, you can find Pietro Nenni, you can find who else? Mariano Rumor, you can find Mario Scelba, you can find a bunch of people. This is like a textbook of Italian history. So how do we define our controls? Okay,
Guido,
we
sorry,
start. Yes, please.
Can I ask it?
Please.
Yeah, just very quickly. I was wondering why you use place of birth of politician instead of constituency, which is where politicians actually take votes to establish political connection.
Yeah, but in most of the cases, in most of the cases, birthplaces and electoral constituency, they basically overlap. In some cases, however, and especially during the 70s, actually, well, let me try to explain this in English. Actually, you had the possibility to have some very powerful politician with strong local linkages that, for some reasons, okay, were sent to some other electoral colleges, okay, for some party reason. For instance, when I was young, there was this famous Ministry for Education and Industry. I can't remember the name, but she was from the north. She was a very powerful DC minister, and the Democrazia Cristiana sent her back to Campania, because in Campania the college was a college, was a sure college. I mean, it was one of the college that very easily voted for the Christian Democratic Party. So, and then, you know, if this happens, then it's very difficult to say that in this case the politician will send the transfer back to the electoral college, but probably she will continue to take care of it, you know, birthplace and area of. And if you look at this literature, all this literature basically work with birthplaces, because electoral constituencies can be endogenous. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
No, you're welcome. No. Okay. So how do we define controls? Okay, we dropped the cities above 2,000 inhabitants in 1951, and this is consistent with what we have done for the treatment group, and also the municipalities within a 10-kilometer radius from them, just to make sure that we are not messing up with agglomeration economies. And we also impose a safety belt and exclude all the municipalities, okay, in a radius between 10 and 20 kilometers from the treated area. Remember, the treated area, okay, is a radius of 10 kilometers, okay, around the municipality of birth. So we are left with so our safety belt will include, okay, our safety belt will be a larger circle that will include our treated area. If we do such a choices, we end up with having a balancing that you can see here in the first three columns. For the whole sample, we end up having a balances for a number of observable characteristics that is not very good, meaning that for some covariates, they are very different from treated and controls. So we just follow Klein and Moretti, and logit regress the treatment against a vector of municipality characteristics, and the characteristics that we use in the logis are just those that are described in table 2, and we drop from this sample just the 25% of municipalities with the lowest, okay, predicted probability of receiving the treatment. Okay. We end up with 4,119 municipalities in the control group. We will also provide some robustness on this 25% threshold. But if you look, if you look here, after we have trimmed the sample according to a Klein and Moretti procedure, everything looks quite good, and all these covariates, they remain. So they are very similar across treated and controls. Okay, a number of econometric data issues. One concern is that the members of the parliament or regional governors or other important politicians who never became prime minister or party leaders, okay, they were also powerful politicians, okay. And so in this respect, our definition is very conservative, Okay, and it's very conservative on purpose, because we know that doing so, we are exposing ourselves to a type 2 error. Okay, this means that we might mistakenly consider as untreated places that receive some treatment. Okay, so we know that the problem that we might have is a problem of this type, and so we know that our estimates might be a lower bound of the true effect. That's why we work with a very conservative definition. The second point is that usually people doing this kind of exercise is very concerned about selection into treatment. In our setup, this means that municipalities with a higher growth potential before 1951, they would have been more likely, okay, to express, one of its inhabitants as prime minister or political leader. But in our setup, this is quite unlikely. And this is quite unlikely because 90% of our powerful politicians were born before 1930. That means that basically they had to pass through, the fascism. Dictatorship and also the Second World War, so it was very difficult to predict, the growth potential at that time, just before two big events like the dictatorship and the war. So we are not really concerned with the selection into treatment. And also one thing that you may want to know, we take 1951 as the pre-treatment here, and we assume that the treatment continues up to 1991. We thought a lot about this, and we think that it's arbitrary to define the exact year in which the treatment switches on. Okay, we also have done some exercise in this regard, and the exercise was also quite favorable by considering the year in which a particular powerful politician gets voted at the parliament for the first time. But our impression is that given the structure of the political power during the First Republic, we think that it's safer. So we think that those politicians were more or less in power for the whole period. Okay, so we think that it's safer to consider, also their role before and after the period in which they actually took office. We will work with two very simple specific. I don't know if you have questions on this our construction for treated and controls. Okay, I can go ahead. We work with two very simple specification. Basically, we can provide results for a very long pre-trend only for populations, because a bunch of other statistics of other variables that start in 1951, while for population we have data starting from the beginning of the century, and so we will basically use population growth, in this case the difference in log in population between 1991 and 1951 as our main outcome. And the specification it's really easy. We'll regress this difference as a dummy for being treated. That means for being one of the connected municipalities plus a bunch of controls, and those are the same controls that I haven't shown you in table 2. And then we will also, but mostly for illustrative purposes, also even study version of the same equation, and nothing really changed. Okay, those are our baseline results. And here we play a little bit around with the controls. Okay, and at the end of the day, we will take our final specification, that is the one in column 6 as our baseline, and we consistently estimate a connection premium that is around 8%. Okay, irrespective of how you move the controls. And here we have a bunch of we look at log population, we look at population growth trends, we look at the number of geographic controls, sectoral economic controls like sectoral composition, and we have also covariates for social and human capital. It seems that the premium the connection premium is quite stable over all these different specification, and amounts to 80%. This is at cumulative 8%. Okay, that means that over 40 years, okay, treated municipality population in treated municipalities has grown, 8% more than population in controlled municipalities. Okay, as I was mentioning before, we can provide an even study version of this result, and this is important because we can see how this 80% cumulative cumulative difference is materialized over time. Okay, and here we basically work with the time domains interacted with the treatment variable. One thing that you may want to notice, there is no sign of failure of the parallel trend assumption before 1951. Okay, 1951 is our pre-trend, and then our treatment switches on in 61, 71, 81, and 91. Okay, and as you can see, from 61 on, population grows, and it keeps growing, up to 1991. We had a number of we played a lot with the interactions, and then with the robustness. As for interaction, one idea was that probably municipality in the south, they could have featured by stronger favoritism. For instance, if you have in mind a Putnam story, okay, or a Familismo Morale story, if I can remember the name of sociologist, but I mean, if you have in mind, well, those kind of story, probably you may want to see your result. What happens to your results when you split the sample between northern and southern municipalities, and that's what we do here. And basically, we will see that the variable treated per south is positive, but does not receive, statistical significant usual level. So it seems that basically political connections were widespread all around the country, as also the anecdotal evidence that I provided before will suggest. Then we will provide another probably interesting interactions, because basically we have the hometown municipalities, and then we used as treated area also the surrounding of this hometown. Okay, and we want to see whether the effect is the same. Okay, and so we introduced the two dummies here. One is farther, the other one is closer. So basically we contrast places that are far away from the municipality of birth with places very close to the municipality of birth, and we basically find that home is where a powerful politician was born, in the sense that the effect of the exact municipality of birth is basically twice. Okay, the one that is still positive, but refers to places farther from the birthplace. Sorry, just one moment. Gabri, devi andare. Gioca qua, ma in silenzio. I'm very sorry. And then we look at something that is the salience of the powerful politicians. Clearly, not all these politicians, they were equally powerful. For instance, I don't know, De Mita was much more powerful than Altissimo, and you can find many examples like that. So what we did here, we try to characterize our effect according to one measure of power that could be, for instance, years in office, and so we have our treated this interacted with more years on less with those two indicators, and we see that the impact is higher for politicians, for more powerful politicians, as measured by this variable. But we also looked at the Google citations, and basically what we have done here is just to compare politicians with a lot of Google citations with those who received much less citations, and we see that the effect is much stronger in the first case. As I was mentioning, I'm very sorry. I need to say something to my son. Gabri, puoi stare qui, ma devi stare zitto, ti prego. Okay, it's very, smart working. Smart working can be very.
Don't worry about him, Guido, because
very complicated. But I'm working in this room, so I'm probably.
No, but no problem, because we can't hear him. So.
Okay, this is a table of robustness. Here we perturbate, okay, a number of arbitrary empirical choice that we have done before. For instance, in the first row, instead of considering as threshold, okay, instead of dropping the city with more than 200,000 inhabitants, we will lower this threshold to 50,000 inhabitants, and we find that the result is lower, but it's basically still there. In the row, in the second row, we just drop probably, I can remember, probably the first at the 99 percentile and look for the importance of outlier. In the third column, we play a little bit with the logit estimation that in our exercise allow us to have a proper control group. And so instead of using the 25% threshold as Klein and Moretti, we are more conservative, and we drop the lowest 30% of the municipalities with the lowest, probability of getting the treatment. And then in row 4, we use instead of using a 10-kilometer radius, we use a 15-kilometer radius. Okay, and then we also redefine the safety bell accordingly, and really nothing changed. So all this robustness wants to make the point that all the arbitrary choices that we have made are arbitrary, but quite reasonable. And then in row number 6, we consider only party leaders. Okay, our powerful politicians are both party leaders and prime minister. So in row number 5, we consider only prime minister. Okay, and the coefficient is still there, is slightly higher, while in row number 6 we consider only party leaders, and the coefficient is just very manually reduced. And then we move to alternative clustering in row 7 and in row 8, and then we change the estimation method with PS matching with the weights are basically given by the probability of receiving the treatment according to our logic, and nothing changed. And we also perform Oaxaca blinder estimation that has some in principle has some very good properties when you have a reduced number of treated units, as it is in our case, and still the coefficient is still there. We were very worried that our estimates might have been driven by some specific municipalities, okay, in particular because some of the powerful politicians could have been very powerful, while some others could have been much less powerful. So here what we try to do is a simulation in which for each draw we exclude from the sample 5 birthplaces, okay, that are randomly chosen. Okay, so we randomly chosen 5 places, okay, this can and drop them from the sample along with the all the neighborhood municipalities, and then we re-estimate the model. We repeat this procedure for 1,000 times, okay, and here we have the distribution of our estimates. It's a kernel density. So as you can see, this curve is quite well behaved, and there is no bizarre mass in some other parts of the distribution. In our setup, I see I'm running out of time, but one nice feature of our setup is the fact that we can observe what happened to connected municipalities when the connection ends. Okay, so the First Republic was in place from 1951 to 1991, but we know that at the end of 1991 there was manipulated. There were no communists around on the other side of the moon. So basically, the First Republic vanished, and we can see what happens to our population, to our connection premium defined in terms of population. And we will see that when the connection and the differential speed of of local growth for connected municipalities tends to fade away, tends to reverse. Okay. Next, we went to look at the specific changes that were induced by the political connection, the local economies. Okay, so here we replicate the specification that I showed you before, just using as dependent variable a bunch of economic variable. And in this table, we show the results of our regression, both for 1991 and for 2011. At the end of in 2011, the First Republic was already over by 20 years. Okay, so we can observe that at the end of the treaty, at the end of the First Republic, treated municipalities, connected municipalities, they displayed a higher level of economic activity. In particular, there was more manufacturing and there was less agriculture. There was a high density of industrial plants, firms were on average larger, there were higher wages, there was lower unemployment. But if you look at the share of entrepreneurs, that is the raster row of this table, okay, there were also less private entrepreneurship, meaning that probably there was some crowding out between public, the public sector and the private sector at that time. Look what happened in 2011. Most of the advantages disappear. For instance, for wages. Okay, we are not able to see any differences between the treated and controls, and also the degree of industrialization halves, and also the employment rate, and also look at the unemployment rate that is now basically larger in treated versus control. So the idea here is that all the benefits related to the connection, they tend to disappear when the connection ends. That's when this is interesting, because in some cases you think that some policy interventions, they will endogenously, well, they will provide something that is called endogenous growth. Okay, that means once you have used state intervention to put the economy on a different path of development, then the things will start going better forever. Okay, those results would suggest that this is not necessarily the case. Okay, those results suggest that when the connection was basically on, actually connected places, they did a lot better than unconnected one. But then when the connection was over, there was this mean reversion. There was this tendency to revert to the social and economic situation of the unconnected places. Something on the mechanism. I have told you that basically we have a bunch of historical and anecdotal evidence that says that the connection were mainly intermediated by infrastructures and by state industries. Okay, but so far I didn't provide you with any evidence in this regard. Here is the evidence. So we look at we use some data for road density at the municipality level and railway density at the municipality level. And again, when we look at when we try to regress the road density and railway density over our set of municipalities, we find that there is a premium as for the infrastructure. There is a premium for our treated municipalities, and we also had this this premium works for both road and railways. And we also had this very nice archives of state industries in the library of the Bank of Italy. So we have a map of all the headquarters and all the plants of state industries, of state-owned enterprises from 1951 to the end of the First Republic. So we use this information. We use the information on the location of the plants, and we see that the probability, and that will be column 3, the probability of hosting a plant from a state-owned enterprise in treated municipalities, something like 40% higher, and also if we exclude utilities that from some reason should have distributed more uniformly over the territory. Also, if we exclude utilities, we still have a very a significant, a very sizable and significant effect. Yeah, the evidence that I provide in table 8 and table 9 really speaks, is consistent with the paper of Acemoglu and in 2006. This paper is very important. I say that the government intervention can be positive when an economy is in the early stage of development, and basically here we show that actually during the first 40 years, it seems that at least for the municipalities that have received, for the connecting municipalities, they received some gains in terms of their economic situation, and also our evidence is consistent with this famous paper by Schleiner Vision that says that the politicians pushes state-owned enterprises to engage in excess employment and pay above market wages, because this is the way to get more political support, and we find that this is also the case in our Italian data. The last part of the paper, and this will be also my last slide, that is the part of the paper is still under construction. We try to look at the general equilibrium effect. Okay. So up to now, I have shown that connected municipalities receive some premium, and the question here is what about the nationwide consequences of the connection? Here, the point is that if the connection reallocates resources across space, okay, well, we don't know what the overall impact is going to be. It can be positive, or it can be null, or it can be even negative. It depends on the agglomeration externalities. Okay, that potentially be spurred by infrastructure and state-owned enterprises. Okay, so we test whether this is the case, and here in this table, that is table 11, we look whether agglomeration externalities are higher, okay, in connected municipalities with respect to non-connected ones. Here, that is very simple. Is that if I move, okay, economic activity from Siena to Arezzo, okay, to stay in our first example, well, it could be also a good move from a general equilibrium perspective from the nationwide economy, provided that agglomeration externalities in Arezzo are higher than agglomeration externality in Siena. Okay, and here in table 11, we just try to estimate agglomeration externalities, and we find that basically you should look at the interaction coefficient between a treated and log density. We found that basically there is no the coefficient is negative, meaning that probably connected places they have less agglomeration externalities than unconnected one, but we are not able to conclude because the coefficient is not statistically significant. I think that I have done also because, well, I thought I had like 30-40 minutes, but okay, it's 6 minutes to 4, so I have done them here for your questions and comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Guido. Thank you very much for this super interesting paper. And so now we can start our discussion. So are there questions from the audience? Otherwise, I can start to make questions. I have a bunch of questions, of course. So let me see if there are already questions. No, so let me start just to with my first question, Guido. So first of all, I saw that you have very interesting results, okay? Heterogeneous effects south and north of Italy. So there's no additional effect in the south, if I well understood. So what about the role of Cassa Depositi e Prestiti? So the Cassa was a big formal bank to informal political connection, and the power balance was strongly directed towards the south of Italy. So
you mean Cassa per il Mezzogiorno?
Yeah, sorry, it's Cassa
Okay,
per
okay.
no, Cassa Depositi e Prestiti is a completely another.
Yeah, it's the new Cassa per il Mezzogiorno, so in a way you are you are right.
Yeah. And so, which was the potential role of Cassa per il Mezzogiorno during that period? And the second question is that there is a marginal effect for prime ministers. So have you checked if there is a differential due to the amount of political power owned at the time of the treatment? So in other words, can you test if prime ministers had an additional power in the pork barrel game?
Okay, if you want, I can answer now.
Yeah, I have a third question.
Okay. This is something something that we have done is try to disentangle the effect. Okay, in row 5 and row 6 of this table, in row 5 the effect is calculated only for prime minister. Okay, within our group of powerful politicians, okay, the effect for only prime minister is the one in row 5 and is basically 10, while the effect of only party leaders, okay, is basically 7. So there seems to be a difference, meaning that prime minister are at least according to those estimates are more powerful than party leaders. One problem is the overlap between the two categories, because when a politician is very powerful, he was during these 40 years, he was, for instance, for some years prime minister, for some other years party leaders, okay, was a party leader. And also we have cases in which he was a party leader, a prime minister at the same time. So, well, I would not go that far with this disentangling, but here we have some sign of the fact that probably prime minister are more important than party leaders. Yes. On the Cassa per il Mezzogiorno, the only thing that we did here, actually we were quite sure that the coefficient here, the interaction between treated and South, well, we were expecting a much higher and statistically significant coefficient. And at the beginning, actually, we were, we were kind of in a situation in which we are not able to explain why it was not so, was so different with our a priori. But if you look at the actually, during the First Republic, pork barrel was a consistent feature of all the regions in Italy. If you look at for instance, if you look at the distribution here, if you look at the distribution of state-owned enterprise over the national territories, okay, you see that this is not a South thing, okay. And also, if you look at the list of the and if you look here at the list of the powerful politicians that we have in our sample, okay, probably 20% of them are from the South. So I mean, it's in this sample, it's very difficult to highlight some story that could be valid only for the South, okay. And then I know I don't want to mix up this paper with the other consideration on the South, because I have now another paper that I'm working with the very detailed data on the Cassa per il Mezzogiorno. So we'll I'm joking, but saying that actually here there's no South differential impact on these estimates actually.
Mm-hmm. And then I have just two short additional questions, but just before my question, I would like to allow Carlo, who has another question. So please, Carlo, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Alessandro. And so good afternoon. Thank you for the interesting presentation. And I hope not to have missed it. My question comes from an episode in which, for instance, in Pavia, during the 70s, when Virginio Rognoni was minister, he, let's say, obtained to move the path of the ancient Direttissimo Milano-Roma, which were the the train that were. I mean, I'm too young. I was not born in that period, but of course. And so, for instance, in this case, a lot of people in the city of Pavia that were until that moment a marginal provincial city benefited from one of the most important means of public transport at national scale. So I would like to ask whether you have considered only the, let's say, physical infrastructures, or also these kind of consequences of the influence of an important politician. So I hope to have been clear, and thank you very much.
Oh, okay. No, basically our coefficient should pick up all the effects that will arrive to a territory because that territory was the home birth of powerful politicians. Okay, I'm just showing few evidence. The evidence refers to infrastructures and refers to state-owned enterprises because I have evidence on those kind of mechanisms. Okay, I do not have evidence, for instance, on the public sector hiring. That could be another clearly another mechanism, and we don't know anything about that. But so basically, you should interpret the size of the coefficient will consider everything. All the potential influences of a given politician are there. Okay, and then the two channels that I have shown, the one refers to infrastructure, and the one that refers to state-owned enterprises, they are two of the many possible channels through which the powerful politicians try to benefit his birthplace. That's the way in which we should read these results.
Okay, thank you very much.
So, Carlo, thanks for your question.
Okay, are there other questions? Otherwise, I have additional 2 questions, and for you, Guido. My first question is if you have already checked for additional effect considering the electoral balance between national level and regional level politicians.
No, the answer is no, but this could be also very, very interesting. The problem is that, no, we didn't think about this. And also the main problem is that we don't have the financial flows. Okay. So with the financial flows, with the transfer from one level of administration to the other, probably we could start analyzing. There's someone with the microphone on. Probably we could start analyzing also the dynamics between the local and national politician by looking at how the financial flows will move between the different level of administration. But this is a very good suggestion, something that we have not done, and probably we should look at that. Grazie. So. No, non ti sentiamo, Alessandro, hai il microfono spento.
Alessandro, microfono.
I'm sorry. I was saying that it could be interesting to understand if nationwide, national level politicians are more or less connected with regional level politicians. So maybe there's an additional effect when there's coordination across these institutions. And my last question is just a curiosity. So do your results imply that the place-based connectivity of political power is over after 1991? Because I noticed that basically the effect is completely disappears after 1991, and so
okay. What we have done here, we have also controlled for powerful politicians after 1991. Okay. And still, we find that the coefficients start decreasing. So probably after 1991, the pork barrel dynamics were different from the one that we experienced in the first.
Yeah, but that's
okay. That's what. Yeah, that's what. So that's what this kind of figure suggests. And actually, the paper by the one of the first paper that I mentioned, that is the paper by. Oh, okay. Sorry. That is the paper by Carozzi and Repetto. Actually, they work with data they work with data from the Second Republic. Okay, it's a different paper. They just document the fact that Italian senator, they will try to send the pork back to home. Okay, they document that because they have data on transfers. Okay. This is something that we don't know, but their reasoning apply to the Second Republic. So probably our results suggest that our results cannot say anything whether all the pork bar disappear after the end of the First Republic, but probably they will suggest that the drivers of the pork bar are different. Okay, they can be there, but now they are different from the one that we have experienced up to 1991. That's the short answer to your comment. That is very interesting.
Okay, so Gianluigi Coppola has a questions. Please go ahead, Gianluigi.
Ciao Gianluigi, ben trovato.
Ciao Guido. Thank you very much. I have a question. I have some comments. The first question is this one. You test for 2011. It's the fact. Guido.
Sì, scusa Gianluigi, ripeti.
You test the effect for 2011. Is it right?
No.
Do you understand?
No, I'm sorry, Gianluigi.
In the previous election, if you came back with this slide.
Yes, which one you wanted me to show?
Not this one before.
No, okay, before.
You test the effect for the year 2011.
Okay, we test. Probably we test the difference between in our outcome variable. Okay, we test the difference between this is population growth 91 and 51.
And then you see that effect and in the 2011.
Yes. Okay. So this is the right. Probably this is the right picture.
Yes.
Okay, that's our impact. Okay, it goes
yes.
up to 1991. Then the First Republic ends, and then the effects tries to reverse.
Okay, but
yes.
10 years or 20 years, it's long periods. Do you test only for 2001?
Those are all the data that we have now. Okay.
Yes, but
so we test this. No, we test also 2001. We are using census data. Okay. So here we test it for 61, 71,
yes.
81. Yes. Okay.
But I expect that the effect and after 10 years. 10 years.
Yeah, the effect is very reduced also after 10 years. Yeah, this is something that we can say.
Yes. Okay.
But also it's basically zero in 2011. I have also some regression results that I didn't put on the slide. I'm sorry. Probably with the regression, everything would have been more clear, but.
Okay. And then I think another point is that during this period, the rule of the regions changed during this period. I mean, it increased the role of the weight of the single regions.
I mean, yes, we have regional governments after 1975, and this comes back to probably also to the question of Alessandro. We are not investigating if there is any relationship between the national level of government and the regional level of government, and probably Gianluca, as you are also pointing out, we should look more closely at that too. Yeah.
There is a Bible. There is a Bible that some authors consider, for example, for the allocation of the European fund that is named alignment between central governance and regional governance.
Okay.
Okay, Gianluigi, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gianluigi.
Thank you. Now Fabiano has a question, has a curiosity. So go ahead, Fabiano.
Thank you very much, Guido, for your presentation. As Alessandro said, I have just a curiosity. You told us that you control the results according to the fact the towns belongs to the south or southern region or northern region. And I was wondering if you consider splitting municipalities according to the fact they belong to inner areas or non-inner areas, which might be relevant in terms of representativity and so on.
Okay, well, thank you. This is another good suggestion, and I have no answer since we didn't try this split. But this is another good suggestion. Actually, we could try to work on more dimension of heterogeneity. And because the only dimension of geographical heterogeneity that we have is basically these interactions between our treatment effect and the southern location of our municipalities. But we can try to explode, this trying of but we can do much better in this respect. This is a fair point.
Thank you.
Okay, so do we have other questions from the audience? Maybe Marco, yes.
Yeah,
go ahead, Marco. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Guido, for your great presentation, for all the work that you have done. I'm just wondering if I'm okay. You provide a lot of knowledge about that, but I don't know if I misunderstand something. But if I'm right, probably. Not probably. You use population growth as dependent variable, city population growth as dependent variable, and since that your sample is across the World War II, basically, I'm wondering whether there are papers in literature that look at Germany and Japan, if I remember well, that focus on the strategic bombing of in the World II. And basically the conclusion is that typically the strategic bombing of during the World War II has an impact, a positive impact on the population growth, at least temporary, in the sense that there is all the reconstruction processes after the war and so on. since you start talking about 1951, and that is a period where the reconstruction is starting, and all these issues related to the Cold War and so on, Marshall Plan and whatever. Do you think that there is potential some issues in or some concerns about that? Because you didn't mention any.
No, probably the things that we observe after
Yeah.
1951. If you look, I mean, if you believe at this event study picture, if you look at the slope of the first piece of the line between 1951 and 1961, actually the slope is higher. So probably we are also capturing something that has to do with the reconstruction of the national economy that at that time was still in place. I mean, probably this might explain. Yeah, but this is this is not in contrast, with the main message of this paper, because probably at the part of the reconstruction was, the transport networks. Okay, so powerful politicians were able to locate strategically the pieces of the transport networks to please, okay, their voters. And this is basically they might have done this more massively because at that time there were a lot of money ready to finance infrastructure. So this goes in line with the things that we are finding here. It's and also state-owned enterprises. No, this is at the beginning of our development process. We thought that this was the right way to go for a country like Italy, where we didn't have such a very strong industrial tradition, or at least our industrial tradition was concentrating in few areas, in few industrial poles, while the idea of the politicians was to promote industrializations quite everywhere. And this is okay. This is, I mean, it goes a lot towards the idea of Acemoglu that I was mentioning before. Actually, you might have, actually your judgment on the overall effect of the state intervention can be conditioning on the stage of development. And for instance, the point of Acemoglu is that you may want to have state when you are at the beginning of your development process, and probably you don't want to have the state when you are already development enough. So you need much more, regulation, market-friendly law, and something like that. But it's, I mean, that's the way in which I would react, Marco, to your question.
Okay. No other questions? Okay, so if there are no other questions, well, Guido, I hope you will benefit from our feedbacks, and so I think we can conclude this interesting session. Thanks again for accepting our invitation, and good luck for your paper. I think it's a very nice and original research. And also, I would like to say thanks to all the online participants. And I just remember our next webinar. It will be held on December 9, and we will host Professor Massimo Florio from Statale University of Milan. And so thanks again for participating, and stay safe.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. It has been a pleasure to be with you, and thanks for the comments and the suggestions. Thank you.
For me as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Ciao, Guido.
Ciao ragazzi.
Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Ciao a tutti.
Ciao, Guido.
Ciao Gianluigi, grazie.
Guido, ti mando le copie del libro massimo domani, quindi avrai tutto.
Sì, per favore metti pure Antonio e Fabio, perché io potrei non esserci, sto sempre provando così, insomma, però ormai ci siamo, insomma, dovremmo finire. Ci hanno fatto perdere un sacco di tempo, ora speriamo che non ce ne facciano perdere più, perché dovremmo entrare ora nel dibattito, non troppo più in là, Alessandro.
Sarebbe, sì, diciamo, il time giusto. E va bene, quindi prima di Natale sostanzialmente.
Io, guarda, mi hanno detto di sì, poi però Ho visto nella loro cosa di copertina che hanno scritto 2021, quindi prima di dicembre no, se hanno messo 2000, ma c'hanno problemi perché loro vanno anche, loro, come dire, stampano. Non fanno solo robe, capito? Non vanno solo
No,
e stampano e hanno tutta una serie di limitazioni con la stamperia per via del Covid. Per cui stanno andando tipo al 15%, insomma, mi hanno detto una storia di questo tipo.
Ho capito. Va bene. Va bene, noi ti mandiamo comunque tutto entro
Va
domani.
bene. Grazie. Grazie ancora Alessandro. A
Grazie ancora
presto.
a tutti. A
Ciao,
presto.
ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao. Ciao.